Hi everyone, and welcome back to our fisheries apiary, where we're going to have another full inspection on one of the colonies. It's now getting towards the end of July, and we're almost at the point where we're going to be taking off some of the honey supers and get those extracted. So we want to now just go through, do a full inspection, but just check those supers again just to see whether the honey has been reduced in water content and ready for us to extract. So we'll go over to the hive and take a look at another one of our fabulous production colonies. So another straightforward inspection today. A little bit of smoke at the entrance, and we can crack into them. Something I have noticed is a sudden increase in wasp activity. I don't know whether you guys are finding the same thing, but lots more wasps apparent in the apiaries at the moment. So make sure that you've got entrances reduced on smaller colonies, otherwise once the wasps get in, you possibly find that the other colonies will start robbing as well. So we'll just get these two supers off there. This top one's quite heavy, which is good. And we are now at the point where we need to just check these to make sure that we've got ripened honey that we can remove and extract. And then we'll be getting some treatments on to the hives in preparation for the winter. Yeah, so this colony has given us, I think it was 3 full supers of oilseed rape honey in the spring, and now we've got 2 full supers here. Now, they didn't do particularly well on the field beans. I think the weather fluctuations probably had something to do with that. But to get 5 supers off one colony for the year, if only they were all like that. I won't be so bold as to say all of the colonies do that, because it would be a blatant lie, obviously. But yeah, I'd be quite happy if they all provided us with 5 supers of honey each. So this is going to be just a straightforward inspection. Hopefully we'll be able to show you something of interest, but it's really an inspection to see that they've got food in the brood box prior to us removing the supers of honey, because we don't want to take all of the food stores if they have no food in the brood box. But already I can feel that this frame has some weight to it, so quite happy with that. The brood nests are going to start to reduce in size now as well. So from this month, and we are almost at the end of July, so from August, the brood nest will gradually shrink back as the queen reduces the number of eggs that she's laying, and they'll backfill as they go with whatever nectar they can find, and we'll be feeding them in September prior to the ivy coming into full flower, because ivy tends to granulate quite firmly, and we try to get the food into them before then, so that they can have access to some liquid stores over the winter months. So I just had a look through a couple of the frames here. They all look fine. There's sealed brood, there's lots of food, lots of stores, lots of pollen, and so it's all looking really healthy. This is the first frame that I've seen eggs. So we've got 2 frames here that have brood in them, and I suspect that now the brood nest will gradually diminish in size and occupy the centre frames as we go through the next month to eight weeks. Lots of eggs in this frame as well, bees emerging, and that's all looking really healthy. And bees are fairly calm today. They will start to get a little more defensive, I suspect, as the next couple of weeks go by. The forage will dry up fairly quickly, and then they will want to protect all of the stores that they've got. We've got our queen on this frame with a green dot. So she's here and she looks well. And as I tilt the frame towards the sunlight, I can see that we've got lots of brood in all stages and lots of eggs in this frame as well. So the queen is in this little cluster of bees here. So I'll keep this side of the frame tight against the side wall of the brood box as I put it back in, and slide it down so that I don't crush the queen against the side wall of the box. And then we can just ease that frame back in place. So we've seen the queen, not looking for the queen, but when the queen is marked, it's so much easier to spot her. And should you have a supersedure queen, then obviously you can spot the fact that you've got a supersedure queen so much more easily, because she won't have a mark on her. So you can always see if there's been a change in the queen that's running the colony. So again, lots of brood here emerged. There's a few cells that are still open, waiting to be capped, but everything's looking pretty fine. Just use a little bit of smoke just to move the bees away from the comb that they've built at the top of the frame, and that just stops you from crushing bees. Lots of brood in all stages on this frame. All the adult bees are looking nice and healthy. Unfortunately, the sun is in a little bit of an awkward position, so you have to tilt the frame towards the sun, or towards the lighter area of the sky, so that you can get some light down into the bottom of the cells, but that's looking really healthy as well. And again, lots of bees in between. You can, if you want to, you can scrape away the brace comb that they build between the frames, but where colonies do that, generally they tend to build it back again, so you could just find yourself doing that every single week. Another frame of emerging brood. Not quite so much drone in this colony. I have got some colonies that have got a lot of drone brood still, but not quite so much in here, and not so many drones either. And that's a result of the time of year. We're getting towards late summer, where mating will be less, but also in a colony where you've got an established mature queen, you tend not to find quite so many drones again at this time of the year. If they had been trying to produce a supersedure queen or a new queen, then you could expect to see an awful lot more drones in the colony, and they would have come from other colonies. So another frame of brood. Pop that one back in. Each of these frames has a nice seam of food stores around the top, so I'm quite happy in my mind that we can take both of those supers away from this colony, and then we're into a frame of stores. So this is just stores which the bees are still filling up, So plenty of food stores there. So these bees will be perfectly fine until we come to feed them up. And again, this end frame full of honey and nectar. There's a small patch of brood just at the bottom of this frame. No eggs in any of those cells. And once those bees emerge, the bees will fill up those cells with nectar or food stores of some sort if we then feed them with sugar syrup. So we can close these up, just slide the frames together using the hive tool to push the frames across. A nice gentle inspection. Hasn't taken us too long to show this colony, and if we weren't filming, then we'd have gone through them a lot quicker. This end frame, again, there's just one or two cells here. We've got a wasp digging into some of the stores here, and it's interesting that once a wasp gets itself onto a frame, generally the bees tend to ignore them unless they get caught at the entrance. Once they're in there, it just seems that the bees are so busy that they don't actually sense that the wasps are in there. When they do, obviously they're straight onto them and they'll sort them out very quickly. So that's all the frames pushed together. We can knock the bees off the queen excluder and get the queen excluder back on, and then we'll have a quick look in the supers and see how the honey is and whether it's ready to be extracted or not. So we'll have a quick look in this particular super and just see how things are going with them storing the honey, see whether or not it's ready to be extracted. Looks like that frame is falling apart, so we're going to have to do a bit of maintenance on that one. So we'll have a look at this frame next to it. And you can see quite clearly that this frame is almost completely capped and therefore will be ready to be extracted. So that's excellent. We can slide that one back in. Some of the frames towards the edge will need a little bit more work. Let's show you this one right on the outside. And you can see that there is some nectar going into these frames, but it's likely to still be a little bit liquid. Well, in fact, this one's not dripping out at all. Let's try the other side. Now that's quite well reduced as well. If it drips out, if the honey nectar drips as you shake it up and down, then it needs to be matured a little bit longer. But that's actually holding itself in place quite nicely, so that can be extracted despite the fact that it's not being capped over. So let's lift this second super back up. Pop off the crown board, and then we can just have a look at what the bees are doing in here. And you can see that this is all capped and ready to be extracted, both sides and pretty much all the way across all of the frames. So that's fantastic. We're going to get 2 reasonably full supers off this colony from the summer flow. So we'll just get that crown board back on. An important thing when you do check your bees and check the honey particularly is to make sure that you line everything up and that you don't leave any gaps anywhere, because if you leave a gap you can guarantee that the wasps particularly will find that gap and they will rob the supers out very, very quickly. So just make sure that everything is in place and everything is secure. Okay, so we've got 1 or 2 bees that have followed us just across from the hive there, so I'll keep the hood up for now. A fairly straightforward inspection, everything looks fine, the bees look fine, the adult bees look great, the brood looks fine, and 2 nearly full supers to extract, probably with about 25 pounds of honey in each of those supers. So that's looking great. If you've got any questions, then please do pop them beneath the video and we'll catch up in the next video. Thanks for watching.